So let's go ahead and start implementing the iteration. Again, as we discussed in the previous video, there are steps we're going to do in each controller, and there are steps that we're going to do in multiple different functions. So this is going to be an example of how complex getting a single feature to work could be. So first, nothing is going to happen in the storyboard. The storyboard is going to look exactly the same. Everything is going to happen in the code through instructions and lines that we're going to provide. So first, in the second screen, we need to create the image view. So I'm going to call it canvas. And this will be a UI image view. And I will not initialize it here, the same reason I did with the paint color. I will initialize it later. But what I will do in the paint view controller, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to color the background. I'm going to delete that, or you can comment it out. But I need to add this to the view. So I'll say view, add subview, and I will add the paint color, not the color, the canvas. The canvas to the paint view control. So these are the steps I need to do on the second controller. Now for the first controller, I need to create it, initialize it, and assign it in the prepare. So I'll create it as a class scope, initialize it in the view did load, and then assign it in the prepare. What is it? It's an image view object that has the size of the full screen. So I'll create one here, var. Maybe I will call it original or main canvas. And the type is UI image view. I won't initialize it here, but I will initialize it in the view did load. So in the view did load, when this main screen loads, it will initialize the main canvas. So if I say main canvas, I will initialize it by using the UI image view and use one of the initializers. We learned about initializers before in the string and in the UI color. You use the parentheses to load one of the initializers. So I can initialize an image view with a frame. A frame represents a CG rectangle or a core graphics. CG is a prefix, stands for core graphics. And rectangle represents a rectangle area. So you're basically saying, I want to initialize a UI image view with a specific size. So that's what I want to do. So where do I get the size? I want the same size as the screen. So my screen is represented by the view object. Every controller has a view object that's connected to the viewable area on the screen. So the view object is also rectangle and it has a frame. So I say I want to create an image view with the same frame as the view of that screen. Meaning, in other words, it's the same size as the screen. Then in the prepare function, which is called at the time of navigating from one screen to the other, I want to assign this main canvas to the canvas of the destination. So I will say here and say assign the main canvas to the canvas at the second view, second screen. So I say destination dot canvas equal main canvas. Alright? So what is confusing to you likely will be that you get lost what I am doing where. And this is why I spent time in the previous video to try to list them, so you can always come back here and follow through what we're doing. So we went to the second controller, added one, implemented it, went to the first, added, initialized, and assigned it. Now we go and do the actual magic in the second controller. So we go back to the second controller and do some magic. So what do we want to do? We want to implement the touches, and we want to create the, actually I want to create two things first. I want to create the path. So path of type UI Bezier path. And I can initialize, so I can initialize, I don't think so, let's see. So initialize it to an empty Bezier path. Would it accept it? Yep, accepted it. So I'll create and initialize to a Bezier path. Notice here when I put the cursor on the Bezier path, the help in the utility area gives me information from the actual API documentation, and then I can go and click on the class reference to read more if I want more. So when I create a variable in the class scope, I can either initialize it immediately, create an initialization function, which we will do in module 5, or suppress the error if I know what I'm doing, and I will make sure that I'm not using it unless it is initialized. I can suppress the error with an exclamation mark. Alright? And then I need to initiate, so I created it and initialized it. Yeah, that's all I need. So now I need to create the touches. Maybe I'll do it here. So the first one, if you start typing touch, you get to see all the functions. These functions come from the UI view controller. So it's overloaded function like the prepare. So there's a touch began, and the description tells the responder when one or more fingers touch down in a view or window. Touch ended, moved, and cancelled when a system event cancels a touch. So we can start with the touch began. If you want to draw only when the finger are lifted, you can implement touch ended. If you want to draw while the finger is moving, then you use touches moved. So I'll do touches began. And the function, as we talked with the prepare, receives from the operating system two parameters. One is called set of a set is the mathematical set. It's a collection of unique objects. And each object is of type UI touch. What the iOS does, it wraps that information about the touch in a library called UI touch. And here's information about UI touch that you can read about what this object contains. And it also receives the event itself if you want information. I don't need anything from the events, but I need from the touches the location, because this will be the first point in my drawing. So inside the touches began, I want to create or identify the initial point of the drawing. So I want to retrieve one touch from the collection of touches. So I just want one of them. So I'll say let touch equal touches, and then I want to get my first touch. So there is actually a variable here says first touch, and it returns to you the first element of the touch. Then I need to get the location from the touch. So I'll say let first point equal touch dot location, and the location gives you a type CG point called graphics point, but the location is relative to the view. Now notice what happened here. The moment I started Xcode added this question mark. Why did it add the question mark? If you notice on the first, there was a question mark here on the UI touch. And I'm not going to get into the details of that, but in the one of the links in the class, you can read more about that. When you see that question mark, it will result in one of them here unless you add an exclamation point. If you add the exclamation point, you can remove that from there. So what I would advise you, every time you retrieve a value and you see the question mark on the type, add the exclamation point at the end. And then in the view, so what view is the reference of the location? Because the location is reference to the origin, and the origin is the upper left corner of your rectangle area. So in a view, you have multiple layers. In my case, I have two layers. I have the view layer and I have the canvas on top of it. So, but both of them are the same size, so really it's not gonna matter here. But if the canvas was smaller and you want the location in reference to the canvas, then you need to put that. So I'm gonna say the canvas. I want it in reference to the canvas. So I got the first point. Then I need move the path to the first point. So I'll say the path, the Bezier path, and then the function is called move, which will move the path to the specified location, and my location is first point. So that's all I needed to do. So now I'm constructing a path of all the points, that will represent the line or the curve that the user wants to create. So that's all I need to do in the event of the beginning of the touch. Now the user is going to move with the touch and I want to move with it. So first I want to do the same thing. I get the same thing in the touches moved, a set of or a collection of touches and the event. I don't need the event, but I need the first touch and the location. So the first two lines in touches began, I'm gonna repeat almost the same. So retrieve one touch. So I'll say let touch equal touches dot first touch and the exclamation mark, and then get the location. So I'll say let current point equal touch dot location in the canvas or relative to the canvas. And then the third step will be to add a line between the first point and this point. So connect the current point to the first point. So I say to the path, so the path will say add an arc, add a curve to, add a line, so you can connect to the points in multiple ways. I'm gonna just use a line, and they are too close to one another, so a line will be fine. Alright? Then we need to start the drawing, because as the user move, I want the drawing happens with it, so I'm gonna draw here. So I'm then in this step I'll say start a graphics context. What's happening here, or the concept here, is that we create a context like a digital canvas in memory, draw inside it, then grab that image and put it in the screen so you can see it. So we'll actually do all the drawing in memory, then take the result as an image and assign it to the image view as a screen so you can see it. So to start a graphics context, we use a function called URI Graphics. URI Graphics. So there is end image context or begin image context. So the URI Graphics begin image context creates a context with a particular size, and we're gonna get the size from the canvas, because the canvas has a frame and the frame has a size. So we're creating a size of that context the same as the size of the frame. And at one point we have to close it. So let's go ahead and close it. UI Graphics end, graphic end image context. And in between we do the actual drawing. So what do I want to do in the drawing? I want to set the color. So I'm going to use the paint color. So paint the color and say set stroke. If I want to draw a line, then I use set stroke. If I want to fill the content, I use set fill. So I'm going to be drawing. So now whatever drawing happens in the context will happen with that color. Then I need to set the path, set the properties of the path. So I'll say path dot width or line width and equal. So I can say, well, I want a line width of 3 or 5, or we'll leave this for now. Let's do a 5. And then, so we did this, we did the line width, then we can draw now. So now draw the line. So I say path dot stroke. So now the line is drawn in the image context. Then I need to extract that image, extract the image, and assign it as the image of the canvas. So I say canvas.image equal. And then UI Graphics. And then there is in the UI Graphics, there is the image. Get image from current image context. And as you can see, there are so many options here that you can read about. So we get an image from an image context, and I'll add the exclamation mark at the end. And that will get us the image from the image context. And then step 9, close the image context. Sounds good? So far, so good. There's one step we didn't do, which is, it's not going to be in the first time, but I mentioned to you that one of the problem is when this will draw an image, but when we return, that image will disappear. But since I saved it in the main screen and it will come back with the prepare, I need to paint. So in my image context, I need to paint whatever was in the image before. So that image that was in the canvas before I finish the drawing and extract and replace it, I need to draw that image as well. So before I strike the color, I need to draw that image. So I come here and maybe add a point and say draw the existing image in the canvas. So I'll say canvas.image.draw, and here is a draw, and draw in a rectangle. So draw in the rectangle. So which rectangle is the canvas frame? So I want to draw in the canvas frame, draw that image, and then set the stroke and the width, and then strike the path, and then grab the image again and keep repeating. So that's all what I need to do. Let's go ahead and test it. So we choose a color, paint, draw with the color, then back, another color, come back, everything is here, and we can draw with another color, back, change, draw, and you can draw with another color. I am not the best drawer or painter. I'm not the best drawer. Not the best painter. um, but you can make beautiful images here, and it will look nice and good and everything. So we'll stop here, and then I'll do the save in another video. And there's also clear, like you can save, but what if I want to erase? You can clear, you can erase. So what would be a clear? A clear will mean you remove all the points from the path and you set the image to null. So the canvas will have nothing in the image and the path will have no points in the path. So that's the clear. So how about erase? Erase is the same thing as the drawing, but you're drawing with the same color as the background color. So if I have like a path with that is white and I draw with it, then it does that. Then there's another thing we can do as well, the line width. The line width is constant, but the line width is a number that I can have the user enter as one of those sliders. So I can add another slider here for the line width, and every time I come back, I can come back with a different line width and a different color. So in this case, the line width doesn't have to be constant. I can create a variable for the line width and initialize it in the main screen and path it. So I can say width or brush size, and this will be float and exclamation point because I'm not initializing it. And then we can put this the brush size here, or actually because I'm not implementing this there, so I'll initialize it here. But if you decide to implement it, you will need to remove the initialization of it and put the exclamation point in there. Is that an error message? Can't assign value of type float to type CG float. Oh, the brush size need to be CG float. So to convert to CG float, you can run a function called CG float and convert the float size to CG float like that. The core graphics float. So we can run again. Actually, I don't need to run again. You can see the effect of the size, but I just wanted to show you that there are multiple things that we can do in here. Another thing, if you notice that when the screen loads in the first time, the color is not selected, and I have to click on one of those to set the color. This is a change we can make as well. So if I can say, or maybe write potential enhancements, which can be extra credit for whoever will do it. Potential enhancement, clear the drawing, the image, erase part of the image, and then enable the user to set the line width. Start, initiate the color or set the background color to the current selection of the sliders at the viewed load. Another thing you can do, you can save the latest color. So when the app opens, it opens to the latest selected color. So these are lots of enhancements that you can think about and implement. The last one, you need to do the shared object concept that I talked about when we discussed the navigation and moving data from one screen to the other. So I'm gonna do another video for the save, and then you guys can think about doing that stuff. And if you have any questions, let me know.